Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Blu Sky Virtual Retreat. I'm Deanna, and I am so happy that you guys were able to take your time out of your weekend and come and listen to me and the rest of the speakers about self-care. Let's start with an intro. Again, my name is Deanna. I'm 29 years young. I am a fur mom. I have 2 dogs and 5 cats. Yes, I am a cat lady and I love them to death, and if I could have more, I would. I just recently moved to the outskirts of Metro Atlanta, to the country. I'm so lucky that me and my husband were able to find a small farmhouse with some property in the middle of a pandemic for a really reasonable price. So we were able to buy that, and now we are looking into starting a small flower farm and converting the rest of the property into a self-sustainable homestead. So we are really excited about that. My occupation is a florist. I was working in a retail flower shop for about 4 years. Decided that I did not want to do retail flowers anymore, which are what you see, when somebody gets flowers at an office or something. I did not want to do retail flowers, so I stepped out of that realm and started doing just small events for family and friends. And even within doing that, I realized that's not really what I want to do. And so we started looking into growing flowers. So that is where I'm at now. So I'm really excited to get that started. We took a year to kind of acclimate to our new home and get comfortable with our property. And hopefully in 2022, we will start building and cultivating the land for the flower farm and the homestead. What else? My hobbies, I love to read. I'm an avid reader, have been for a very long time. I love to thrift and flip clothing, love to sew, make costumes, stuff like that. And I really like just anything outdoors, hiking, camping, traveling, and I think that is about it about me. Again, I'm just so happy that everybody is here today to talk about self-care. So with that, let's get started. So when Javon asked me initially to talk about self-care, I was so excited. Of course, yes, let's do this. And then I hung up the phone and I sat and I looked at my husband and I said, what the hell am I going to talk about? What am I going to talk about? I mean, self-care is so different for each person, because self-care is based on their likes and their wants and what they need in their life. So I'm like, how am I going to talk to people about self-care, in a generalized statement, when it's so different for everybody? So I literally said, okay, let's do some research. And I literally typed into the search bar, what is self-care? Easy as that. Nice little simple question. Luckily enough for me, when that came up, I got the history of self-care. Now, I don't know about you guys, but for me, I didn't even know there was a history of self-care. I thought it was just self-care. I thought it was always there. I didn't know it had a beginning. But self-care does have a beginning. And let me give you a little brief history of self-care. So in the late 1950s, the concept of self-care was pioneered by a nursing theorist by the name of Dorothea Orman. And if you don't know what a nursing theorist is, it is someone who helps bedside nurses evaluate patient care, which therein helps the nurses better evaluate the decisions that they're making for the patient. Okay, so what Miss Dorothea did was basically define self-care. And let me give you that definition. It's the practices that an individual initiates and performs to maintain their life, health, and well-being. That is the definition of self-care. I didn't even know there was a definition of self-care, but that's it. Little did Miss Dorothea know what she was doing. I mean, it was a game changer. She started this, making this definition as a way to define nursing and what nurses did. And she defined something else. She created a whole nother thing. So by the 1960s, academics really started to take an interest in this theory, because that's all it was at the time, was a theory. And they really started recommending self-care to first responders like firefighters, social workers, medical workers, anybody that was having post-traumatic stress disorder from being first responders. So they really started pushing self-care, making sure that these people were not only getting adequate sleep and nutrition, but they're making sure that not only their physical and emotional and spiritual needs were being met. It was so important. By the 1970s, self-care really took off when the Black Panthers Party started promoting it within their communities. So what happened was, because of all the injustices that was happening during the civil rights movement that many of you are aware of in POC communities and Black communities, I mean, they saw this self-care as survival. They made sure that not only do you have to take care of your community and survive what was happening to them, but you need to take care of yourself, your mind, body, and soul. That was their big thing. So what they started to do is they started establishing these community survival programs that facilitated medical, educational, and food throughout the communities. In 1972, the BPP held the Black Community Survival Conference, where they handed out flyers and really started talking about how important it was to facilitate self-care within themselves, because to be able to get through that time, you had to make sure that you were healthy, that you were in the mindset, because of all the things and injustices and inequality that they were going through at the time. I mean, a lot of them couldn't even get basic medical needs met. I mean, think about the time you couldn't even go to the hospital and say, hey, I need help, I don't feel good. I mean, there's still biases in medical today that still think Black people don't feel pain. Like, what kind of shit is that? So with that, they really took it and pushed it into the community. Self-care was so important. In the video the link that I have down there, we have a video from Afropunk from I think about 2 years ago, with Angela Davis talking about self-care, and I really think everybody should go check out the video. When I saw it, I was just like, yep, this is it. Definitely need to link that. The way she talks about it, obviously, is so much more eloquently than I can, because she's been doing this for forever. But it's really important. It was really important at the time for people in Black communities and communities of color to really take themselves and make sure that their self-care was good, especially Black women who at the time, were the household, and they got forgotten about a lot. Audre Lorde, who was an activist at the time, really had a great quote in the 1980s from her book, A Burst of Light. I have this book right here, and the link is attached in my Amazon affiliate link. So definitely go and check out this book. It's amazing. She initially started doing it, started practicing self-care after she was diagnosed with cancer. But she is known for a really famous quote in saying, and I quote, "Caring for yourself is not self-indulgence. It is self-preservation, and that is not an act of political warfare." At the time, and still now, a lot of people see self-care as being selfish. It is not. It is taking care of your person. It's taking care of yourself. And people forget how important that is, especially in the hustle and the bustle of today's age with the media and social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I mean, you can go on. You forget to take care of yourself. With the pandemic, I know that there has been an increase on a lot of mental health problems within people because it's just been a chaotic year. And that is the point. It is not self-indulgence, it's self-preservation. It is so important for you to take care of yourself first. Right? And that was also for the community. It was not self-indulgent for you to take care of yourself, because to take care of yourself, therein you take care of everybody else. If you can get yourself right, then you're able to help everybody else. Like I said, self-care was survival. It was how you stayed alive. By the late 1980s and into the 90s, self-care kind of transitioned out of being a political statement and into a more niche statement. It didn't become self-care, it was wellness. It was the wellness trend. And it kind of stepped away from being so political and taking a more of a holistic lifestyle choice, which it made it more for the wealthy instead of just the everyday person. As in, you seeing things helping out in the community center, now you have yoga in the health clubs. It just transitioned into something different and more out of the political limelight that the Black Panthers Party had put it in. And by Y2K, self-care was just a lifestyle. And it was honestly kind of like a weird niche. Like, I remember watching, I don't know what it was from, but it was a video of parents in the early 2000s waking up early and doing yoga, and that was weird. They were the odd, eccentric people who woke up and did yoga. That was it. But that was self-care. They were making sure they were right at the beginning of their day. And me, as growing up in the late 90s and Y2K, I'm trying to think, like, was self-care super prevalent in my growing up? And I wouldn't say it was, but it also wasn't. Like, growing up in school, nutrition was always very big. I didn't think that was a form of self-care. I thought it was just, you gotta be healthy. You work out. They taught you to stay active. When I was growing up on TV, there was a commercial and it was like, verb, it's what you do. You run, you walk, you play. But now that I'm thinking about it, it was them pushing that healthy wellness lifestyle on us. So for me, and I feel like a lot of people my age, self-care was kind of intertwined into our childhood. It's just second nature. Like, we're going to go out and we're going to eat well because we know that if we eat well, in return, we're going to feel better. But by 2016, with the looming election, and we all know which election it was, self-care made a tremendous comeback. Huge. with social media being super prevalent in that area, Facebook and Instagram, people took self-care and ran with it. Now you had big brands making huge campaigns about self-care, face masks. You had Lush come out with all of these bath bombs and hashtag self-care. Influencers everywhere, hashtag self-care Sundays, and it was huge. It was huge. And so while I was researching this, and that was the main reason I started researching self-care, because I was like, I don't remember a time. I remember a time where it just went from nothing to all of a sudden self-care was everywhere. And to me, it was self-care became very gimmicky and very trendy. It was brands and influencers selling face masks and, full-on serums and a whole, collections of things. And then, hey, you need a self-care ritual? Check out our brand. Check out our things. And that's what I recognize as self-care, something very trendy and gimmicky. And now that I've looked over, the history of self-care, and then even within the last 6 years from its big comeback in 2016 until now, brands and influencers are still using that gimmicky, trendy type of self-care. So with that little history lesson of self-care, let's talk about how we can implement a more authentic, a more introspective way into self-care. So with that, with learning the history of self-care, I asked myself, okay, let's make a list of things that I do, and I would suggest that you all do this also, what I do for self-care. So my list goes going on walks, sewing, reading, doing my hair, putting on makeup, etc. So I just literally made a list of things that I do to make myself happy, right? And then I realized it's so, even for me, it's not hitting those, what I think are the 3 fundamental things of self-care. And that's mind, body, soul. I also have a mantra of happy, healthy, wealthy. So we have happy in the mind, healthy in the body, wealthy in the soul. That is my mantra. That is always something that I try to remember every day, going to every day. So I said, how can I take my little list of my self-care and put them into those 3 categories? So I have happy in the mind. So that's probably me reading, something that can really put me in a good place where I can decompress from my day and not think about all the external stressors that's happening. Me taking just a really good relax where I can relax the brain and stop thinking, and the cogs are stop churning and all the wheels stop moving, and I'm not thinking about what's tomorrow and what bills I have to pay and who's doing this, and definitely trying to step back from social media. I find that reading really helps me take a step back from my phone and not screen time. So for me, for my happy mind, that's reading. For my healthy body, going on walks with my dogs around the property, making sure that I'm eating correctly, making sure, and I think it can be confusing when people say eating correctly, because that is all defined within your own person. You don't have to be eating carrots and hummus every day. Eat what makes you happy, but also what makes your body happy. Last night I went to the Vortex and had a giant burger with fried pickles and pimento cheese. Boy, was I happy. Okay, that still counts. Eat what makes you happy and makes you feel good. Be an intuitive eater. Eat things that you know you're going to get nutrition from, but also when your body craves that piece of candy, that chocolate, those potato chips, that also counts as a healthy body. Your body tells you what you need, and you need to listen to it. And then lastly, we have healthy soul. What makes your soul shine? What makes your soul happy? What are things that you can do that you know are going to make your insides good? Make you feel wealthy on the inside. It's not always just about money and things. And we get confused with that word, wealthy. Oh my God, I have money and the big house and all the cars and the clothes. No, we want a wealthy soul. What makes my soul wealthy? And that's something as simple, like I said, doing my hair. I got natural hair. This shit ain't always easy to do. Sometimes it don't get done. And I slap a hat on it and keep going. And sometimes you gotta take your time out and twist every individual curl and put that deep conditioner in, because once you look in the mirror, you say, this is the person that I am, this is the person that I want to be, this is the person that makes my soul happy. So with that, I would definitely ask you guys to ask those questions of yourself. What makes my mind happy? What makes my body healthy? And what makes my soul wealthy? That's a mantra that I use every day. I'm constantly reminding my husband of it because he does suffer from a lot of mental health issues. And so when he gets into one of those moods, I'm just like, hey, remember, happy, healthy, wealthy. Mind, body, soul. And he's like, all right, you're right. Let me hear it. Happy, healthy, wealthy. And I did not come up with that term. I literally saw it on a TikTok from somebody else, and I latched onto it because I said that's it. That's what people forget all the time, and they constantly have to remind themselves of. I am happy, I am healthy, I am wealthy. And so I have just a few questions for you guys to ask yourself when you're going through the self-care journey and you're constantly growing, and if you feel like your self-care isn't a more introspective and is more of just a very outside, I'm doing a face mask, which again, there's nothing wrong with doing trendy things. I'm just having a glass of wine, I'm doing a face mask, I'm taking a bubble bath with a nice little bath bomb. But while you're doing those, let's contemplate, let's think about, how does my self-care routine mold me? How does it make me the person that I am? What do I crave in life? What is your end game? You might not even have an end game, and that's okay. Who inspires me and what inspires me? People forget. If I had time to do anything I wanted to do, what would I do? Make that dream board. Make those dreams a reality. You might not have it now, but you could have it later. What is my mantra? As I said, my mantra is happy mind, healthy body, wealthy soul. Love it. And sometimes it gets me through a lot of negative behavior, because it's so easy for us to get into our heads and become negative, and I just have to remind myself, happy, healthy, wealthy. What can we add to our self-care journeys to make sure it's hitting all of those fundamental things, mind, body, and soul? And of course, can we take our self-care journey and make it more introspective, making sure that we're doing everything that we can to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves in the utmost way, right? So with that and all of those questions and your nice little history lesson, Because again, I'm no expert, but you don't have to be to know that self-care is important. So with that, I hope everybody was able to take something away from what I had to say and are able to think about it and make their self-care more authentic to themselves and really take the time out to mold and grow and form their self-care journey. Thank you guys all for being here today. Again, don't forget to check out those links that I have, and definitely check out Miss Audre Lorde. She is amazing. She has a lot more publications, but this one was definitely her most popular. It's a beautiful book, and I definitely suggest that you take the time out to read it. All right, guys, thank you all for listening to me, and I hope that you guys enjoy the rest of the speakers. Have a great weekend.